Hey guys, it's Caden. I thought I'd make a quick little video about when I knew I was trans. So I knew since as far back as I can remember, and the farthest I can remember is when I was about 4 or 5. I can't remember anything past that, but I do have a really good memory, and it only allows me to go back to when I was like 4 or 5. That's as far as I can go. And something had came up where I don't know, but basically I'm gonna paint the picture for you. My mom was sitting on the toilet taking a piss, and she had the door open, and she was talking to me, and she told me straight up, because she's probably like 20 or 21 at the time, and I was 4 or 5. She straight up just told me, boys have dicks, girls have vaginas. Boys are this physically, girls are this physically, so match yourself up according to your physical body. She didn't say it like that, obviously. She said it a lot more cruder, but just gonna paraphrase. I got that. I understood it. So, me being 4 or 5, I understood the difference between a boy and a girl. So, for people saying that, like, little kids don't know any better, because, like, little kids coming out as transgender and people sort of dismissing it, saying they don't know better, you're completely incorrect. So, I was a smart kid, I got it. But I still felt differently. I felt like a boy. I understood physically, I was perceived as something, but I knew that wasn't right. I knew that wasn't correct. I knew it didn't fit. So, one of my favorite things to do is to lay up on the roof and stare at the stars, and I would go do that like as much as possible, especially in the summer. And I would wish on stars. I never saw a shooting star. I've never seen a shooting star in my life, unfortunately. That would be awesome though. But I would just wish on stars and airplanes, like the lights that are on airplanes. And I would just wish to be cisgendered, basically. I don't, obviously, at that point in time, I didn't know what cisgendered was. So I would just wish for like for like my gender in my head to match my gender physically, to match up with each other. And so I didn't know what cisgender was, but that was basically what I was wishing for. And eventually I just stopped doing that because, I started waking up. Like, I would wake up the next morning and I would still be dealing with these issues. And I was like, wishing isn't working. It's not doing anything. It's not changing anything. It's not making a difference. So I stopped that. Long story short, I wasn't able to revisit that until I was about 14. I ran away when I was 14 and chopped off all my hair. I had really, really long hairs, like to my butt. And, I still was able to, like, be perceived as, like, male and stuff with that long of hair, and for people to, still be attracted to me and whatnot, and blah, blah, blah. But I chopped it off because I wasn't down with it. And I started socially transitioning in public, like around strangers and stuff. And I try to keep it sort of secret and discreet and whatnot. And I tried really hard to find a gender therapist, which I've realized is really difficult. There's not a lot of gender therapists, especially not where I'm from. I don't know if there's more like in California or New York or like whatever, but definitely in New Mexico, there's like very few. I finally found one, and I started going to her when I was about 16. And previous to that, the reason I had decided to go to her was because I had found, I had finally found what transgender was, and I had finally like realized that that was me, and that's exactly how I felt and who I was. And I found out all this information. I started watching YouTube videos, all this stuff, and then I met with her, and we discussed it, whatever. And I sort of was just trying to figure out, what's the next step. Like, first of all, I wanted to make sure that this was the thing that I had been dealing with when I was 4, you know. And secondly, I just wanted to figure out like what happens next. What do I do? Where do I go? And so yeah, so I've known since I was about 4 or 5, and I just wasn't able to figure it out until I was 14 because I didn't know what transgender was. And I feel like if there's more resources out there, if there's more, whatever, I think I would have been able to sort of deal with that at a younger age. So yeah, and then I knew at a really young age, but I wasn't really able to figure it out until I was about 14, and then yeah, and here I am. So that wasn't like the best story, but it's sort of like the short version and the quickest, easiest, just bada boom, bada bing, because I tried to make this video a couple of times and it was like an hour long, so this is way better than that. So, but yeah, that's when I knew, and I've always known, and so, because a lot of people are always like, how did you know? It's like, I always knew. I understood. I understand, like, the difference, like, yeah, I understand, like, physical and, you know, this and that, and I was able to differentiate sexuality and gender. I always knew, like, that those two things didn't mesh up. Like, they weren't the same thing, they're not the same thing. But yeah, so I've always known, and then, you know, people always like, when? Like, well, as far back as I can remember, and that's as far back as I can remember, so hope you guys enjoyed that little synopsis. So, all my info is down there. Peace out.